You are now watching SonnyTM.
Well. Guess who's back again? This video was inevitable for me to make. It was just a matter of time until I had a real reason to. Let's cut straight to the chase. Daftpina. I've talked about him before, multiple times here on the channel. In fact, he was the subject of my first video essay. In a way, helped me to form my channel to what it is today. From the pure anger I felt from watching his cartoon Saturdays Off. That spurred me to write up an entire script and shit on it as much as I possibly could for being as dog shit as it is. I mean, how can you, a critic, talk so lowly on those in your sphere about wasted potential when you put out such bad horse shit for your audience to consume? Unlike my content, the highest tier of excellence only for you guys. But before we get into that amazing content where I shit on Daft's already dying career, let me tell you guys something. You all better subscribe! With less than 30 measly days left in this year, we are just shy of 8,000 subscribers away from hitting 20K. So if you want to stick it to Daft and help me out, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment about how much better my content is compared to his. And if we hit 20K before the end of the year, I'll do a 24-hour stream to celebrate the milestone over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SonnyTM if you didn't know. I stream semi-regularly. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So why exactly am I making this final installment in my Daft saga? Well, there are a few reasons, but the most important is that I feel like his career is finally dying off. The guy's grasping at straws for content and his views have severely dropped off from what they were a year or two ago. And that's not even talking about a stagnated subscriber count. Let's look at a snapshot of Daft's channel comparing this time last year versus right now. That's right. Absolutely no change in subscriber count in over a full year, with still putting out regular content. Let's face it, Daft is basically on YouTuber life support, and with the growing amount of people making videos about him like me, Rhythm Rev, Advil, and Just a Robot, no matter how many cronies he finds to shit on people like me, it won't matter because the vast majority of people will still hate him. Now, you might be wondering what I mean by cronies shitting on me, and that's no exaggeration. This fucker Daft really out here getting people to slander my name. Why would you do that to little old me? Little old black 11K SonnyTM. Couldn't be that you're scared of me, huh, Daft? I mean, you did just recently block me on my new Twitter account, so you clearly are keeping tabs on me. And you know who else blocked me? That creepy reading. A guy with over 300,000 subscribers who says, in his own words,
because I'm in Daft's personal friend group. We talk nearly every day.
Now, why am I bringing out that creepy reading? Well, it's because he's one of the aforementioned cronies that Daft used to shit on me and to ruin my credibility. This guy went into a debate with Just a Robot and felt the need to not once, not twice, but over 4 times call me crazy and say I shouldn't be trusted.
I know you bring up SonnyTM, but that guy's kind of a crazy person, and I really am disappointed that you trusted him. My problem was you shouldn't have included him at all. He's a bit of a crazy person. A lot of these people are horrible or have very loose connections. And it's just very disheartening that you even brought him up because he's done nothing but like be a harmful entity.
Not only did he do that, he backed Jar into a corner in an attempt to strong arm him to agreeing with him on a point because he never talked to me.
I haven't looked into him too much, but like I have heard some things from him.
But you know who has talked to Jar? Several of Daft's lackeys. People like Neko Koda and Creepy going to him to spread the word on behalf of Daft so he won't have to do it himself. Also, he has plausible deniabilities to say he didn't make them do it. He was just telling them his experiences with me, or with whoever it is he wants to target in the future. It's the reason so many of Daft's friends tweet out targeting the subjects of his videos. It's to add more validity to his hit pieces. Daft tries to make himself out as some sort of hero, someone that should be trusted to tell the truth in an unbiased view of a situation. He tries to be a journalist, but in doing so looks like a hypocrite by not following his own morals. And I've never once talked about Creepy before getting this debate sent to me. Not once before this debate had I even heard of the guy, but here he is shit talking me as if he has first-hand experience with my craziness. Seems like yet again Daft is spreading fake narratives about me because I called him out on his bullshit and didn't stay in line like Quinn Curio did. What makes it even funnier about this guy calling me crazy is that not even 2 minutes before he does, he calls out Jar for calling Daft a manipulator because it'll make it so people won't want to work with him.
Jar, you have to remember that the videos you make on Daft are like biggest manipulator. And like, if they agree with that point, they're obviously not going to work with Daft at all.
So it's okay for me to not only be called crazy, but also told to never side with me because I have no credibility. But with Daft being called a manipulator, that's over the line because it hurts future relationships he might have. Is it because I'm a small creator? Or is it because I made videos talking about my experiences with Daft? What exactly makes me crazy creepy? Let's listen more on what he has to say about me.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got hired to work on a animation project, and he never did any work. Told Daft that he was like focusing on streaming, and that's why things weren't getting done, when in reality it was because he thought the script was so shit that he didn't want to work on it anymore. He then proceeded to leak a bunch of stuff and threaten Daft on Discord.
Oh, you're gonna try to use me being a writer on Oneyplays as a basis for shitting on me? This guy even says I didn't do any work. A blatant lie, seeing as even Daft himself said my ideas will be incorporated in the final product. So how can this guy sit here and lie saying I did no work? I don't think Creepy would just say this randomly though. That means Daft is telling people I did not work on Oneyplays at all when it's simply not the case. And I have evidence to prove it. But why would Daft purposely lie to the people around him about my involvement in Oneyplays? He isn't trying to discredit my contributions to his cartoon, is he? That would mean he isn't crediting his workers. And we all know how much he hates people that don't credit workers. Let's go into detail about my involvement in writing on Oneyplays. Daft came to me after appearing on Oneyplays. Keep this in mind, it's really important for later. He asked me to voice a character on his new pilot he was working on. Unbeknownst to him, I was already working on a video shitting on Saturdays Off, which had just come out a short week prior to him messaging me. When I released my video, he got me into a call with one of his cronies and my good friend, Ellis Mark, to talk about my video. Like how he probably did with all of his other critics who've later become his friends, such as Quinn Curia. He offered me a job working on his show as a script revisionist, which I accepted, under the impression it would be to rewrite lines of dialogue and make things funnier in general. As I've said before, I completely hated working on it and tried my best to salvage what I could to make it a better show by giving it notes and redoing it. While this was happening, I'm also trying to grow my newly found audience with streaming and, you know, making a living to be able to sustain myself. In this debate, Creepy tries to make it out as if I was the reason things weren't happening and that I wasn't taking my job seriously. But just how much was Daft paying me for this project again? At the end of it all, I was paid a grand total of, hold your breath here, $45 for my contributions. $45. Let's look up for context how much a scriptwriter for an animated show should actually be paid. Now, I'm not saying I deserve just as much as a television writer, but on average, scriptwriters get around $1,000 or so per episode. Now, why in the hell would I spend weeks of my own free time slaving away at a project I really had no interest in for what is not even a day's pay? Now, I know that Daft is going to be watching this, so let me just point out that originally we had agreed upon $150 for my contributions to the script revisions. Is $45 even close to half of $150? I don't think so. You could say I didn't complete the script, but let me just look over what I did do. My revised script covered the first 10 out of 15 pages of the original draft. 2/3 of the original script was rewritten for Daft, while also giving major character notes in reference to multiple recurring characters that Daft planned to have in the show, while also inadvertently spurring the creation of a brand new character, even if that character goes against the motivation I gave to one of the main protagonists. So, for all that, I was paid $45. While I felt that for all the contributions I give, I only deserve $45 of the original $150 promise is beyond me, but it is what I received in the end for my writing. Thanks, Daft. But when telling this story, Daft will leave details like that out. He won't talk about how thanks to my contributions, he created a completely new character for the pilot because of the writer's notes I gave him. It's all in service of making himself look better to others and to discredit the people that go against him. You know, the thing he's been doing for years over on his channel. Just a Robot even said the same thing over on his channel, so it's not just me seeing this pattern displayed by Daft.
Daftpina will do whatever he can to make the person he's talking about seem like the worst person ever.
The craziest thing about me working on this pilot is the blatant underpayment I received for the amount of work I did. Did you really think paying me less than half the original price I was offered for more than half the work would be okay? Oh, but you like to shit on other creators for underpaying their workers. Isn't that hypocritical, Daft? But I guess it's okay because I'm a small fry YouTuber. I don't have a voice to speak up against people that lie on my name. At the end of the day though, Daft is obligated to put my name in the credits. It's not a matter of me wanting it or not. It's the fact that I was paid, albeit less than what I was promised, for my contributions to the script. Daft even states that my ideas will be incorporated into the final writing. So if Oneyplays comes out and I'm not credited, you'll know it's because Daft cares more about the bias he holds towards me than the genuine work I put into his cartoon. It's already bad enough he's been lying about my involvement in the creation already to people like Creepy Reading, since there's proof in not just the script I sent back to him, but in the fact that he told me personally my ideas will be in the final writing. So don't continue to be the hypocrite you already are by continuing to lie on my involvement in your show. Honestly, Daft has a real problem with hypocrisy, and it shows what people he chooses to associate with. People like Beta's Inferno, Doobus Goobus, Neko Koda, and even the people he clearly looks up to like Oney and the rest of the Oneyplays crew. Before I continue to this next section, I'd like to preface this by saying for the most part, I have no problem with those who choose to use slurs and non-PC language as long as it's with those who are okay with it. I would never condone using hate speech to make people feel bad about themselves or to attack someone for who they are. That being said, on the other side of the coin, if people choose to say slurs with a company that doesn't find them offensive, I don't see why you should cancel them for just saying it. I stated this last year in regards to the Ethereum situation, and I still stand by this today. That being said, I will be using examples of people that Daft chooses to support that don't adhere to the same morals that he puts up in his videos. People that in any other circumstances would be targets for Daft to make videos on if he didn't either enjoy their content or were already on his side as friends. Let's start with Beta. I've already talked about her extensive use of slurs before, but I just want to reiterate that she was just as bad as Ethereum, if not worse, while also boldly tweeting about him as if he was scum of the earth. If you haven't watched my last video on Daft, which you should, let me just give you a refresher. Beta and I used to be friends. When we were friends, she would on a regular basis use slurs and derogatory vocabulary, not just to me and my other friends, but also to insult Daft himself. We had multiple conversations in which we talked about how much of a snake he was and how he wasn't to be trusted. But the moment our friendship ended, she felt the need to befriend Daft and go to people like Neko Koda to spew lies about me and call me a stalker and crazy. Daft used Beta as if she was an equivalent to Ethereum since they both post suggestive art, the only difference being that Beta had a clean public appearance. But let me just ask you again, who is worse? The person who tries to appear like they are PC while spewing slurs behind closed doors while vilifying those who do it semi-publicly? Or the person who is unabashedly themselves and speak their mind freely in the comfort of their own Discord with others that aren't offended? In my mind, I'm always going to side with Ethereum since the only crime they were guilty of was talking in their own Discord with people that had no problem with it. So why does Daft, even after finding out about Beta's past use of slurs and how she used them to demean him, still follow her on Twitter? Why would he not distance himself or call her out on her two-faced actions? Seems hypocritical to continue to associate with someone who you find out is just as bad as a person you've made a video on in the past. Just like with Doobus Goobus. If you don't know who he is, Doobus Goobus is a YouTuber that makes little animations for toddlers who thinks of himself as some sort of animation messiah of the modern day YouTube. The reason why I bring him up is that Daft displays this plushie in the background of all of his new videos and follows him on Twitter. What Daft probably doesn't know is that Doobus Goobus used to be in my own Discord server before his rise to where he is today. While he was in my server, he felt the need to, unprompted mind you, demean trans people and to say that they are all annoying and how he hated them. When called out for this, he doubled down by saying, well, it's not like I would hit them or anything, as if to make it better. This went on for over an hour with him leaving the call to formulate an apology only to serve as a way to de-escalate the situation.
Why are you getting mad at me,
what
bro?
I meant to say was someone who used to listen. I was thinking of those Tumblr type people. That was wrong. I should. You know what? Fuck it. Restart. Listen, I'll just admit I said it and say I'm sorry. Is that better? I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Admit to your fault and start saying if.
Admit to my fault. I said. Listen, what I said was transphobic, and I don't. And it was wrong to say, and upon reflection, I am sorry.
Reading off the most corporate apology possible to amend for his actions. Doobus Goobus eventually, after being prompted by me, donated $100 to a trans organization. And within minutes of doing so, turned it around to make himself seem like a good guy by saying just how good he feels about helping people. He has a way of making himself seem like he's better than others around him. From it being gloating about how much money he was making to random people in my server, to screaming over others to tell jokes because someone like Tomar was in the voice call. But I guess Daft has no problem supporting someone who makes transphobic comments, seeing as he spent money out of his own pocket to buy his plushie and prominently shows it in the background of his videos. In the process of working on this video, just mere days before its release, while finding clips and reviewing old videos to form the basis of my argument, it came to my attention that one of Daft's aforementioned lackeys, an avid SonnyTM hater, Neko Koda, had completely nuked all of their socials. What I found in finding out why reminds me all too much of the Tina Fey situation Daft found himself in, and just shows the absurdity of the methods people like Daft and people that back him use to dish out their twisted form of justice. Neko Koda, for one reason or another, felt the need to threaten a minor with doxing them and calling their parents for what was a petty internet drama, a direct comparison to the same tactic Daft tried to pull with Tina Fey. The only difference in this situation is that Neko Koda didn't have an audience as large as Daft, so when it came out, they cut their losses and ran from the issue. Just a few short days ago, I was in a voice call with her and others where they tried to accuse me of being transphobic homophobic by asking my opinions on trans people. The conversation ended with the majority of the people in the call accusing me of trying to be a supervillain by threatening Daft, something that even Creepy had brought up in the debate on the same server.
He then proceeded to leak a bunch of stuff and threaten Daft on Discord.
But let me just compare what I did to Daft to how Neko Koda treated a minor. In what world is what I did even considered a threat? Especially in comparison to what Neko Koda did. Or better yet, what Daft himself has done in the situation with Tina Fey. Daft pulled the same exact tactics that Neko Koda tried to do with this minor. It looks like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It just makes him that much more of a coward. When I gave him the option of talking to me, he chose to ignore me and refuse to call when he doesn't give that option to people he makes videos on. So what is it, Daft? When people ignore you, it's considered them hiding from the truth. When you do it, as you said in your animated James video, it's you ignoring a hit piece.
Some people try to reach out to make videos on me, but I usually ignore them as most oftentimes they're just hit pieces. You do you, I guess.
Ironic, as when I first messaged you, it was to ask questions. There was no implication of me making a hit piece on you, yet you still ignored my request for over an entire month, showing how opposed you are to doing interviews if you feel like it won't go in your favor. Again, displaying how hypocritical you really are when it comes to your own dramas. The worst example, however, of not following the morals he preaches so proudly has to be Oney in his Let's Play channel. As I said before, Daft originally found me from Oneyplays, which shows how regularly he watches the channel. And I'm sure all of you know how raunchy it can be, especially with the older episodes. Daft loves the channel so much, he even copies the censor sound effect they use to cover slurs on his channel as well.
I spew posty red pill a lot.
Those are all slurs, you guys. Blur all those out.
Make sure to censor that too.
They start listing every slur.
So, if you have a problem with people like Ethereon, why do you support Oneyplays so much that you reference the show in your own content and even have Hellbenders plushies? It's a thing of wavering morals. When you act so highly and try to be absolute with your judgment and not allowing people to use slurs at all, but still don't vilify the people either in your friend group or the content creators you enjoy as opposed to those that you make videos on, it makes you look like a massive hypocrite, especially when it's a repeated pattern in doing so, as I've been showing in this video. That really is the theme of this video, hypocrisy. Daft, through transforming his channel from its roots of being a brutal look into animators and art content creators into what it is today, a pseudo-journalistic channel masquerading hit pieces as unbiased documentation of events, has cemented himself as one of the most unliked creators in the art sphere. It's no wonder why he has no positive subscriber growth in the last year. What I find the funniest in this entire situation is Daft's passive-aggressive stance on any type of criticism he gets. If you look at his marketing for new videos that show a creator in a bad light, you find a theme of tweets and community posts attacking them if they choose not to respond to it. Daft actively gets upset when people don't respond to his videos, but when it comes to videos about him, you'll find he always goes silent and chooses to not directly address them. As I've shown before, you can even find an example in his newest animated James video, which I feel is a direct attack at people like me, calling anyone that makes a video on him a hit piece. What all any of these videos are doing is documenting the behaviors and patterns of hypocrisy and manipulation that Daft displays. If you want a good example of how passive-aggressive Daft can be, look no further than last year when I put out my last video on him. Not even a month later, he copies my Rebel Taxi video and puts out his own version. Not one person had made a comprehensive documentation of Loki IRL and the subsequent pitch before I had, and just a week after my video on him, he puts out his own version. It's so clear that Daft isn't an unbiased source of information and chooses his targets very strategically and chooses not to cover people he either is close to or enjoys watching. At this point, even the audience is caught on to Daft's tricks, and it's just a matter of time until that neutral subscriber growth becomes a net negative one. What else can I say other than Daft's career is slowly coming to an end? With the corner he's backed himself into, it's no wonder why people don't want to work with him anymore. The only person that wants anything to do with Daft is Rebel Taxi, someone Daft is very clearly clinging to keep any sort of relevant, attaching himself not only to his cartoon, but also his podcast, and even forcing his characters into the panel art for their podcast at MomoCon. Honestly, I don't see a way for Daft to continue to grow with the current content strategy he's trying. He's burned so many bridges, and in trying to continue this act as a crusader for all that's right in the art community, he's turned himself into a true villain. One final note before I end this video is that Daft, seeing that I plan to put out my video today, has released a poll on his community tab saying he will address all of his dramas in a video on his second channel. funny that he's trying to hide it on his second channel, as he even states that it's going to be in the same style as his main channel videos, with the only difference being that it's going to be focused on himself. Of course, most people in the comments are curious about the reason why it's not main channel worthy as much as I am. But what this does show is that with enough pressure, Daft has finally decided to address the controversies he's in. This just goes to show, if we want him to address the issues that I and many other content creators have with him, we will have to be more vocal. So much so that he cannot ignore it. If you want to help get Daft to finally confront his misdeeds, join me in spreading the word and tell others about it, since it seems like the only way he'll ever decide to talk about it. There is no way this is chance that on the same day I put my video out, he decides to announce his plan to address things. Once again, he's trying his tactics to downplay his dramas. Of course, this is some sort of damage control to mitigate the damage that I'm going to cause with making this video about him. If we want him to talk about everything I've covered in this video, we have to keep up the same pressure on him as he does to the targets in his videos. So at Daft with this video on Twitter, Discord, YouTube, and force him to confront it once and for all. I've been Sonny, and I'll see you guys later.